My name is Piyush Singh, and I'm going to talk about test-driven development. A little bit about me. I'm a front-end developer, and I'm working in the industry from like just from last 6 months. Still a little bit new to the industry. So let's talk about what are we going to cover in this talk. We are going to talk about the importance of we are going to talk about the importance of test as a developer. Like, why do you need to write test, what is the importance of writing test in this small talk. We will also write our first test. We will see what are the libraries we can use to write test, and at the end we come to the test driven development and why do you need to do test driven development, and we will give a little bit of glimpse of how to get started with the test driven development. So let's talk about what are the different type of tests that we use. There are major three type of tests that we use. There are unit tests, there are integration tests, and there are end-to-end tests. Let's look into a bit about each of them. Unit test is a way of testing a unit test. You can think of unit test. You are testing a very specific smallest function of your program at it in an isolation. For example, if you are using an asynchronous function, even the API call that you do in a function, we mock that function. We mock that API call. We will talk about mocking in the further in the talk. Basically, but we don't even do the exactly API call. When we are checking a asynchronous function, we're just checking what the asynchronous function do when the API call return the expected result. So this is one example of how we use unit testing. And the test-driven development is mainly based on the unit testing. We developed our code based on the test, and we write unit test to check smallest piece of our code. Then the second is the integration test. Integration test is done to demonstrate that different pieces of system work together. The system can cover the whole application, and they require much or more different effort to put together. You can think of it like there are five components, and they're interdependent on each other. In a unit test, we would have tested them five component individually in isolation with no relation to each other. But in integration, we will test them combinedly, and we test the dependency on each other, and we see that if the dependency is working fine or not. If component A is supposed to do something and then the component B is supposed to trigger an event, is that thing happening or not? This is a small example of glimpse of what you can say an integration test is. Then there is an end-to-end testing. End-to-end testing is the most advanced, or you can say the most thorough form of testing. It's basically you are testing the whole app from a end user scenario. Some of the library that we used in the end-to-end testing is Cypress. Some of the library we used in the integration test, let me show, integration test, and some of the library we use in the unit test is Jest and Enzyme. We're going to talk a lot about these library in the coming talk. So let's talk about why do we need to write test as a developer. Like we all of us agree that tests are a little bit of extra code that we need to write. But let's talk about the advantage of writing these extra code that we write as a developer. First of all, any bugs can be found easily and quickly because you have already tested your code and you were sure that there was no bug. If any unexpected bug cover, your test might catch you, so it would be easy to debug that application in the future. And first of all, and second is it's provided enough updated documentation. For example, when you write a code, you need to manually write the documentation and what is expected from the code and how the code is functioning and all. But if you're writing good enough test and good enough unit test, you can just hand over the code from one party to another, and they can get a good enough hand of what they can expect from a specific piece of code just by seeing the unit test that written into them, because we explicitly write what we put into the input in a unit test, and we explicitly write what we expect from that function. So that give us a good enough expectations that what to expect from this piece of code. So and these tests are regularly updated. It's not like a documentation you have to go take out another time and write this documentation specifically. The unit tests are at the time updated, so they are one of the most reliant way to look for a documentation. You can refactor with the confidence. I mean, we all of us have been at a place where we are working with a team, and there are multiple features, and we did the refactoring in our feature, and some another feature broke in some another one's code. And as we if there are no tests, we test manually and we just test our feature and it's working fine. We don't know what's happening to another feature, and that they might broke. And then if there are no tests in the whole app, then we have to manually figure out what's happening, who did the commit first, and then how this happened. This become a very chaotic. But if you are having already tests in your code, then you can just run the code before pushing the code, and you can see if I am doing this, just some other feature is breaking, this that test is failing. So that makes it easy for refactoring of code. And we can release our code on Friday. As I told you, that test make us tell us that if we have done change in the feature A, we can be sure that there is no breaking point at the feature B, so we can release our code and push our code confidently on Friday, because all of us are being at a place where we have pushed the code on Friday and it got give some bug in the production, and our whole weekend just go into just debugging and debugging. It can solve a little bit, not it can solve that problem. We know that when we're pushing the code, it has passed all the tests, and there is no bug as of now. uh, Now you need to understand, when you write the code, you might think that this is an extra code, we know what we are writing, there is no need to write code. But we need to understand, we don't write code for our present self. We write test for the future debugging and maintainability of app. For example, if there are 10 people, you can easily hand over code from one person to second person if there are enough test and good enough test coverage in the code. We will talk about test coverage in the future slides. Test coverage is basically tell us about how much code is covered with the test and how much reliable are the tests. So yes, now let's talk about what is test driven development. That's the main topic of my talk. So we can think of a test driven development is, we develop our code basic or basis on our test. We first write test and then we write the feature. You can think of, let's take two example. One is a test driven development and one is like normal development that a normal developer do, which is not test driven development. uh, let's say you are asked to write a feature. Let's say you are asked to write a feature, and first of all, you think of all the features that you can think of, and then you can think of expected result. But you're not sure when you write that if the feature is implemented perfectly or not. Then you have to manually test and think of all the scenarios that could go wrong. But in the test driven development, what we do is we first think of the key characteristics of a feature. We think of, okay, these three are the key characteristics of a feature, and we need to make sure about them. We think of them in the input and output basis. We think of, okay, if I am clicking on this button, this thing is supposed to happen, nothing else is supposed to happen. And we write all of them in the test. And once all the scenarios are covered in the test, we run the test fails because you haven't written the scenario first. The second thing we do, we write code just good enough to pass the test. Now the third step we do, we refactor our code to make it good and fast and production level. So this is a glimpse of what a test driven development looks like. As you can see, why test driven development, it can enable faster innovation and continuous delivery because code is robust. It can make your code flexible and extensible. The code can be refactored or moved with the minimum risk of breaking code, as we talked earlier. The tests themselves were tested. The key characteristics of test is that it can fail, and development can verify each and every, and it can also write new tests. Uh, right? Let's now, right? So now we know, we have a good enough idea of what a test driven development is and what the test is. Now, currently, I'm going to talk about test and enzyme in my current talk, but framework for me personally are very exhausting, and it can be a little overwhelming to learn. So I'll give you a quick example of what test exactly is about. Let me show you. And I'm not going to do any fancy functions. I'm just going to create a function that just add two numbers, a and b. It just add this number, and it just return us the sum of these number, right? There is a very little chance that I might fail uh, at this function, but I'm just taking is this for example. So let's try to test for this. So what do we test? Let's say let's create a function. Let's create a function that just tests the sum function, right? What do we expect? We expect sum to return sum of what we give them, right? If we are giving it 1 and 2, we expect this function to give us 3. So let's put it this way: let the result be sum of a 1 and 2. We all know the sum of 1 and 2, 1 and 2 plus is equals to 3, and let expect is equals to 3, right? Now we want our this function would be correct if our expected value match the resulted value. So let's write a condition for that. If our expected value matches our result, we can just console log. Let's you can just console log that test passed, and we can just console log if the expected result is not what we expected, then the test failed, right? Before even calling this function, we haven't called this function, we don't know if it's right or wrong. Let's call the test first. Let me console log it. I will console log answer. Now the test pass. I haven't even run the function and I know that this function is correct. This is a, you can think of an example of test driven development. We are depending upon our test of a dependent upon our test. We haven't even run the function as of now, and we know it passed. Let me just do something else in the, this is a sum product. This is supposed to give me a sum. I did something bad and I created a subtract function. Now let's see what's happened. Now my test failed because I expected to give me 3, but it gave me -1, right? So now we haven't run the test, but we know it's a wrong function. We haven't even run the function and we know it's a wrong function. Right? So this is an example of how what test give us and what's the power of test and how we can write test. But this can be a little exhausting writing this function every time for every function. So let's just create our first test framework. This is a dummy test framework, doesn't cover a lot of scenario, but let's try to create one test framework of our own. So let's create let's name it our first test framework, right? It will take test name, and it will take the function that it need to check if, right? So let the this is the function, right? So first of all, we define what we expect from a function, right? Let's say this is a sum function, and what we expect from the function is 3. So let's first,
Piyush, can you increase
yeah.
the font size a little bit?
Okay, sure. Sorry. Yeah. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So think of it this way, right? So this is a function, and let result is equals to, we call the function uh, function. Let's see what have I done wrong. Yeah. Yes. And this is a function. This is a test function, right? And it will return us true or false. And depending upon the result would always be a Boolean value. We can print out our result For example, let's say this is the test name, our test name passed. And if it's a false, we can say that this test failed. Now let's write our first test using this framework, right? So let me just write my first test. Okay. So we are still testing the sum function. So the naming of your test is pretty important because when you test the function, it tells us that this test failed. So you need to be very specific about how you write the test. So what I'm going to test is checking sum function. Be as explicit as you can, because when you run the test, you can be sure that what this test was doing and why this failed and what could be the reason of this failure. You can know about just the title of the test, right? So this is a callback function, right? And I am want to test this function, right? I want to test this function. I have already written a test. I will try to use some of its part so that we don't have to write everything from the scratch. So let's see this. This is a callback function. We have a result value, we have expected value. What we do is we just return if the expected value is is the result value. So what we did is we create a test framework which take the test name and the callback function where we have defined our test, right? And depending upon depending upon if the result is true or if a result is false, it will console log your answer, right? So let's just try it for the first time. This is the test framework, and this is the first test that we have written using this test framework. So let's just run it. We say that change sum function passed. If you can see, it's coming from here. The checking sum function name and it's passed or failed. If I do something, if I do the blunder again and I just do something wrong in the function, I created a subtract function. Let's see what it prints. It prints the checking sum function failed. As you can see, so it's a robust test. We haven't even run our function as of now, but we know if it's working fine or if it's not working fine. This is a very small function, sum function. You expect that this, we know what happened through this only. Why do we need to write this whole test framework and then we need to write test? But think of it in terms of when there are multiple functions and the function is doing multiple things and there are multiple members in the team. So this is very useful in that scenario. So I hope that you get a glimpse of what a testing framework looks like. You usually give your test name, and then you give a test, right, like this, and then depending upon your result, it gives us an answer if either a test fail or test pass. This is a format of how we write our test in Jest framework. So let's come to the frameworks now, right? Here, right? So here we have printed our first test, right? So we're here. See, so now that we have written our first test, let's just give it a brief introduction of how we write test. Like first, as I told you, let me show you by the diagram. First, we write a test. It fails. It fails because we haven't written the feature yet. Then we write a feature just good enough to pass the test, and then we refactor the code to make it production level. And this cycle continues for all the features that we want to add to a test driven development process, right? So we get Jest from our, when we use create react app, we automatically just get Jest, and we also get some test already written into our create react app. If you want to see that, I can show you. This is a test, right? This is the test, and this is the preview of what we are seeing in the screen as of now. See, this is this is what you get when you first view your. Can you see my code sandbox, Krishna?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. Yes. We can see it.
Can you see my VS Code, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sure, sure. So as you, this is something which you get when you create a first React app, and this is the I haven't changed anything. You can see that there is a you get this test already written into your create React app from the start, right? So let's see. We this is based on the testing React library, but we are not going to use the testing React library in our current talk. But I can give you a glimpse of what it does. Let's run the test. So for running the test, the command in the create React app is npm test, right? Let's run our first test. This is our first test that we are running. Let's see what the output we get. We already have this test written into it. It might take some time. Let me give you a brief introduction what's happening here. So what is happening here is it's rendering. What it's checking is it's creating a copy of your app profile, right? Your app which you have declared here in the index with the index here. It has made a copy of this, right? It has made a copy of this for the test, and then it's trying to find the learn react test, right, on your app. Currently there is a learn react app. It will pass, but it might not find. Let me show you. This is the why it's not running. Let's just run this first and see how this fails. See, this will fail. uh, See, this will fail because it's trying to find the learn react in my current component, but I have replaced that thing with my name. Now it's failing because there is no react app learning react, and I put my name at the place of there. Now let's put what it expects, and it's running again. Now let's see, will it pass or will it fail? It's passed. See, and if you have noticed something, I didn't even need to run the command once again. What CreateReact and just do is they automatically see the file in which the test file in which there is a change, and it rerun that. And if you're using multiple files, let's say you are running five, there are five written tests written in 5 files, and you're changing doing changes in just one file, then the Create React app will automatically run just that file. If you want to run all of your tests, once you're done with your whole uh, code, then you can just run your whole all of your tests. Right, there is a command for that, and you can just press A, and it will run all of your code. Let me just show you the options that it gives you. But it passed now. If you can see, it's only because we have put learning React app here. Otherwise, it would have failed. We have seen that it has failed. So we have all opted for the test driven development. We first failed the test, and then we refactored just enough to make it pass the test. So this is a very basic example. Just wanted to show you that you get a already test is written in your Create React app. So we use testing library to write app, right? We have already covered this. We are at this creating a counter function. So now we have seen that the create React app creates give us a already written test, right? And we can run that test just by command. And now let's create a whole app, not a very complex app, very simple app. And let me just shift the my branches. Okay, need to first know what the changes. Yes. So we are going to create a first app in this demo using the test-driven development. So let's talk about what we're going to create. We're just going to create a very simple app, which is just going to increment the counter on the click and decrement the counter on the click. Nothing very fancy. So let's talk about the setup. We're gonna use Jest and Enzyme. We get Jest in the Create React app only, and there is a dependency that you need to install when you're using Enzyme. Let's talk about Enzyme a bit. Enzyme is a JavaScript testing utility for React that makes it easier to test your React components output. You can also manipulate, traverse, and in some ways manipulate runtime given the out. So let's write our first test. So this is what we are getting as of now. This is a blank screen. There is nothing on the screen as of now, right? So yes, as you can see, the app function is also empty. Now let's think of what we need to write when we're writing the test, right? We need to check if our function is getting rendered or not. So, right, what we do is we first check that our app component is getting rendered or not. We create a shallow copy of our app, and we find a function. We find a component by a class name of app. You can find that I have put a dot notation here. You can find it via class name, via ID, or via data attribute, as we do in our CSS components. So let's
Piyush,
just
can you
run.
increase the font size?
Okay, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Is it visible now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So this is as
Maybe you
as I
can
told.
reduce the sidebar with, yeah.
Yeah. As I told you, this is a test-driven development, right? So let's run our test first. Let's run our first test on this app. What we are doing in this test is we have make a shallow copy of our app, and we are trying to find a component with a class name of app, and we're checking if that is present, and we want it to be just one component. So we expect it to be just one, right? So let me just run npm test, and let's see what happens. Okay, so currently I have a component app. Let's just again run it once again. Now as you can see, the test fails, and it will tell you exactly what it expected it to be true, and what it currently expected. So what the test did was it went through the shallow copy of app, and it tried to find a component with a class name of app, and it checked if there is only one component or not, and it couldn't find any component. So let me just pass this test, right? uh, I pass this test. Now we have a component with the class name app on our screen. Now the function should pass. As you can see, the function passed, the test passed. And let's see what happens if we create a duplicate copy of the same app. What will happen? Let's see. You see, it fails because it expected just one component, but we gave it two components, so it failed. This is just an example of how good the testing library is. So let's just, so for creating a counter, we need a counter, right? So let me just copy paste this from here. We need a h1 with a counter tag as of now. So right, we need a h1 with a counter tag. So let's first write the test for that. Test, first we need to type the test to check if the counter is rendered or not. So let's just copy it from here, and let me explain you what we are doing here. We have a shallow copy of app also here, and we are trying to find we are trying to find component with the class name of counter. Let's run it. Let's run it, and it will fail because currently we don't have anything with with a class component with the class name as counter. As you can see, it's expected one, we get 0. Now what we do is we pass this test. We create a counter function. Yes, yeah. We create a counter. That's one tag. Right. Now let's see what happened when we run the tag. Sorry. Now let's see. Now the test passed because it was able to find the h1 tag with the class name counter into it. Now let's add some another test. What we need also, we need an increment button and we need a decrement button that need to be rendered. So let's write a test about them. Right, we need a test to check if there is increment button in the DOM, and we need to check if there is a decrement button into the DOM. Now both of these tests will fail because there is no decrement or increment button as of now on the screen. So as we run the test, right, let me just run this again. Npm test. So we are checking if the increment button is rendered or the decrement button is rendered. But as we can see that there is nothing called increment button and there is nothing called decrement button. So these tests will fail. See, the test will fail. It expected one and it got 0 because there are nothing as increment or decrement button, right? So let's just copy these button and try to make them add it to the DOM. And let's just run the test now. Will the test fail? Will the test pass? Now test passes. Now we have a increment and decrement button in the DOM. It checked that and it passed the test. Now, if you can see what we have on the screen as of now, we have an increment button, we have a decrement button, we have a counter, but there is no functionality, there is no behavior as of now. We need to increase this counter when we click on the increase, and we need to decrease this counter when we click on the decrease. So what we are going to use is we're going to use a use state, but before that let's write behavioral test so that we can check if the behavior is what we expect them to be or it's not. So let's check that our behavior, let a counter should always start from 0, right? So our counter should always start from 0. So let's write that. Let's see if it passes or if it fails. It failed because we don't have counter as 0, we have a string. which is like this, right? So what we need to do is we will use a use state. Let's create a counter and counter setter, and we use state to make it 0. Now we put use state here, right? And let's see how the test will react now. It passes. Now we have the counter. Now let's write the behavior to increment the counter as of now, right? So uh, let's do this. What's happening in this test is shallow copy of app. We are finding a button with the class name called increment, and once we find that button, we are stimulating it with a click. Basically, our program is clicking on it, and then we again found the counter, and we expect it to increase because we click on the increase button. Now earlier it was 0, now it should be 1, but it failed because there is nothing called increment functionality in our app as of now. So what we do is we add an increment functionality. We add an on click, and when someone clicks on it, the value gets increment by 1. As you can see, now we need to do the same thing for the decrement. You can see. Right, we found a button with the decrement class name. We stimulate a click, and now earlier it was 0, now it should be -1, but the test should fail as of now because there is nothing called decrement functionality on our app. It failed, and now we add that functionality of decrementing it. We added an on click, and now when we run it, as you can see, now it's giving all of our tests are passed, and we have a working counter button, right? As you can see, we haven't really worried about what's rendered on the screen as of now because we were sure that our tests are covering it, right? So one of the major aspect of writing test is something called as test coverage, right? Test coverage. So there is a command to test the test coverage. Let me just run that command and show you what exactly the test coverage is. Yeah. So you can think of a test coverage as a document which tells us about how our test is performing, and how basically a report of how which of our line is are covered in the test, and which of the line are there are still no tests written. For example, if you can see this, it tells us the percentage of line that's covered, function of line, the branch that is covered, right? Then there is uncovered line. It tells us the exact uncovered line that's covered. We have a detailed report. If we can go into the coverage folder and we can go into the ICOV report, we get an in HTML file. And if we run this HTML file, let me just run it and show it to you. We get the detailed version of what has been covered. As you can see, all of this has been covered. So currently we have covered all of our tests, all of our line has covered, which is not really possible in a real production app. So let me just remove some of my tests to show you what it will tell you when you have exactly covered all of your lines. So we go to app.test and we remove the test from the decreasing button. We remove all the tests that cover the increment decrement button, and it will tell us that you haven't covered the decrement buttons as of now. So let's just rename this, right? So see the percentage changed. Yes, the percentage changed. The percentage changed. Now it was earlier it was 50, 100%. Now it's 60%. It tell you exactly that the from which file there is not there are uncovered line. It tell you from 23 line is uncovered. The percentage 60% is only covered. 60% is also only covered, which is earlier 100%. So this is tell us exactly when what we have covered in our test. And we don't need to really cover for the 100%. Anything above 85% is really good enough, and if you have covered all your p0 function in your test, then you can think of it as a very good coverage. Never don't really chase a good 100%, because something are not very this, then you need to also test your redundant code, and you don't need to do that. So there is something called as a mocking ingest. So for as I told you in the start, even if an async function is calling an API call, we mock that API function. We don't actually call that API function, because that API function is out of the scope of the function. We just need to check the function, how the function is reacting when we get the exact return from the API, and we assume that the API will be working fine, and we will test it in another unit test if it's working fine or not. So let me just show you what we are going to do in the next demo. What I have done here is I have created an e-commerce app where there is a toggle functionality of themes. As you can see, you can toggle your theme via this toggle button. So this is a live production app which is on the hosted on the Netlify as of now. Now I have a local version of it, where I have disconnected this toggle button functionality. What we have to do as of now is we have to create this toggle functionality, but with a test driven development. So there are two aspects to it. First of all, that toggle should work and the theme should changes, and the second thing is it should retain the theme when we refresh the page. As you can see, it was dark theme, it is still dark theme. And if it is light theme, if I refresh it, it still need to be the light theme. So this is our task in hand as of now, and we need to solve this via test driven development, right? So let's think about what we can do here. I think we are a little short on time, so I'll just give you a demo of how we have written the test, and fill those tests, and show you how these things are done. So what I have done is it's based on context API, and there is a reducer that's working. So depending upon the payload, it's either returning dark theme or it's either returning night theme, right? So this is the let's talk about this. Let's tackle it one by one. This is the function where we have returned the dark theme if the payload is dark, and we have returned the night theme if the payload is night, right? So let's just run this test as of now. Yeah. So these tests are supposed to fail because we haven't really implemented anything as of now. This is just a reducer which is just returning the same state that it's getting as of now. It will fail. Now, one of the major aspect of this is that we need to store our current theme on the local storage. But as I told you, we don't need to care about what's local, if local storage is working properly or not. We just need to mock it, and we need to just expect that a local storage is working fine. We just need to check if it's getting called with the expected arguments or not. So if we are toggling it to the dark theme, we just need to check if local storage is getting called with the payload is equals to night, and if we are calling it with the day theme, we just need to check that the local storage is getting called with the payload of day, and we assume that local storage is working fine on its own. For that thing, what we have done is we have mocked the local storage. If you have seen this, there is a file called setup.test where we have mocked the whole local storage of now. We can set item, we can get item, we can remove item, we can clear item. This is not the actual local storage, and this setup test file run every time before a uh, test is run. So every time you run a test, the local storage is getting mocked every time, so that it doesn't affect the real time environment, right? Uh, and as of now, the test has failed. So this is a reducer that we have to make when the test fail. We have to create a reducer which stores the current theme on the local storage, and it also return that theme. And same with the night theme, and same with the dark theme. So now we have written a test, written test that checks if it's true or not. And let me just pass the test as of now. It's running the test, and now you can see, yeah, the test fails. Now let's go to a reducer and see what's the issue that it's failing, because there are two theme managers. Just comment this out and it should work now. Yeah, as you can see, the theme should work now. The theme is working now. It's toggling and it's getting retained. And we have done this whole by a test driven development. We first thing we wrote is we wrote a test to check if it's getting called or not. We wrote a check if it's getting called or not, and then we mocked the local storage and we checked if the local storage is getting called with a proper argument or not, and then we check the result. If the result is expected, then it's returning the true, the test is passing. If it's false, then the test is failing. So yeah, this is a this is my presentation about the test driven development. And now let's talk about what's next. There is a lot of thing that we can start from here. Now we have written our first framework in our app. We have created a counter app with a test driven development, and we have implemented a real feature in the production level app. Now we can start integrating app into our start integrating test into our own app. Maybe not the test driven development, but start integrating a small test here and there. And we haven't covered anything about the integration test and end-to-end test. We can start learning about them. And once you know about the test driven development and you know how it's good for you, how it's good for you in the run, you can start integrating test driven development, at least. And your if it's not on your current job, you can start doing it using this approach on your personal project. So yes, that's all from my side. Thank you.